It's Tim Albright with AVNation with a AVNation special, actually taking a look at full stack vendors. And with us first and foremost is my buddy, Mr. Eric Snider. He is the Chief Technology Officer for CTI. Welcome, sir.
Hello. How you doing, Tim? How you doing, Brad?
I am well. Well, and the other person, Brad, is my other friend, Brad Hintze from Crestron. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Tim. Hey, Eric. So good to hang with you guys today.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing, and I'm going to start very simple because when the phrase was brought up to me, that's full stack vendors, full stack providers, I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. So we'll start here with that. Brad, from you guys' perspective and from Crestron's perspective, how do you define full stack provider in the world of AV? And we're going to bring AI integration into this as well. So kind of bring those two together, and what does that mean to you guys?
For us, what that means is that, when you can turn to a manufacturer that builds a variety of products to meet a variety of needs that a customer has, the combination of all of those products together has value to the customer, right? And so considering that when you have a manufacturer that can deliver to you the content distribution, the collaboration tools, and the control technologies for a room, the combination of that becomes very valuable and should be a choice. It should be a consideration for a customer. That enables them to more easily manage it and to scale it, and ideally helps them to take it to a wider variety of rooms, right? Ones that have different kinds of form factors for that product. And so for us, that's really what we're talking about, right? That benefit of bringing all of those together kind of in one package.
Well, Eric, from the integration side, what does it mean to you when I say full stack provider, especially in the world of AI and everything?
Yeah, exactly. That's becoming a much larger conversation, I think, now, right? It's not just, we've had video bars and we've been able to put systems together for a while and are thinking of it. This discussion was real heavy at IC. I think Brad is exactly right on the money for it. The way I look at it in the room now is that really what we're doing is collecting audio, collecting data from the room, and we're an edge device up to these cloud services now, right? And the better data you can get to the cloud services, the better experience is happening and the more of the AI. So the more that you can control of this experience, maybe the better, right? If I'm going to make a speaker that puts out a certain amount to pick up by this microphone, I can replicate that. I know what that should be in any environment in a lab. Then I know its room acoustics is the difference between it. For example, there are products out there right now that can give you a report card on the room. So there's certain advantages on utilizing the ability to get that clean data to the edge device up there, especially if it's from the same OEM, because they know what's expected. The only difference is now the environment of the room.
We'll talk about that for a second, because I want to get something you said there, and that's take and give a report card on the room. That feels like something that the folks that manage these rooms have been asking for a while, assuming, like, and again, this is in talking to both technology managers, IT managers. You're right, there is data there, but it feels like this new AI thing that we're leveraging is helping us provide those report cards. Is that accurate?
Let's take, for example, Buy and Launch. It's been out there on the market for a little bit. I'm not endorsing anything or not endorsing, but it's already available to us right now. Because they do the microphone, they do the speaker, they know exactly how much SPL should hit here, and then they know what is reflection, because they can take that into the best environment and the worst environment. So now it's the room. But let's take that concept one step further. There's other data in the room we want. Now we got cameras. Now we got lighting. Now we got camera angles, right? Now we can start providing even AI context for the room, right? On a regular learning model right now, the AI is so good that if you're providing this and you wanted to leverage it, the AI could tell you that you left something in the room. And if you identify that and enable that technology is not the future. That can literally be done today if you wanted to open to it, right? So-and-so was in the room, left this folder. That that particular ability could be turned on within a month or two of what you're doing in the room. There are consequences to it, right? Now we got to secure it. Now we got to understand that. So would I suggest to someone you do this tomorrow? But no, as I was looking to do the room, I got to give clean data to that edge device to decide where it goes. But on the other hand, I'm giving a lot of data and a lot of personal information to that edge device to decide what to do with it. So just because we can, should we, has always been the question, right?
That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brad.
It is. And, customers will wrestle with this, right? They will be developing their own policies for that. They will out of necessity, right? And we're participating in new conversations too, biometric data as it relates to, transcription, right? And the regional benefit or the regional challenges that come of doing that. But I think that, one of the things that we like customers to consider is that how can you deploy the right kinds of edge devices that give you the ability to integrate all of these things that get and have that visibility that you're talking about, right? Because, I think that, we've been talking about for the last 15, 20 years about the promise of IoT, right? And all these individual devices. We are now at this moment where a lot of things are getting integrated together, harnessed to give you that new kind of visibility to manage those systems, ensure they're working well, and take action, right? Make changes to the room as you need it. But in order to do that, you first have to deploy the right kinds of edge technologies that will ultimately allow that integration as well.
I mean, it's kind of the reason why the in-depth conversation is going on right now. When they first came out with in-depth, it was, okay, well, we're going to do this to control so we don't have to write so many different Android versions out there, right, for Microsoft. I know Crestron has been working with Microsoft on it, but I think Microsoft saw it, and at this point in time, in-depth, which is the Microsoft Development Ecosystem Platform, right? It's a version of Android or Linux, if you will, because Linux is kind of Android, think about there. It's a version that we're all going to agree to write to now. And it's starting with Microsoft and being able to do it with Intune and being able to maybe trust it into this environment, which Microsoft wants you to. There's a lot of questions around that, right? But you got a standard here that all of a sudden now is no longer just a bar. This might be the pathway that in internal, just kind of talking with Microsoft, this might be the operating system of IoT that can actually be secured. And Brad, I don't mean to let anything out of the bag there. I'm not too, but I know that you guys were maybe exploring some of that, right?
We announced it at ISE. We have the intention of integrating MDEP into our products. We haven't given specifics on the timing and the products per se, but it's not a leap to assume that the Video Bar 70 will be MDEP, right? But we have a number of products that run on Android today, and so it is conceivable that you could see that on other products as well. And there's certainly value in having a standardized OS that you can build on top of with these devices. And so there is some of that value that gives for a lot of enterprises that predictable way of managing and monitoring those kinds of things. But it does also present some challenges as manufacturers tool up to be able to build on top of that thing, right? Because I think that building on MDEP requires a different set of tools and a different way of thinking about where do you add your own special magic into a particular device. And it is, I think, heading into the right direction. Again, at the end of the day, customers are scaling the deployment of technology more than they've ever had to before. And so we all have to think about these things in a different way. Way back when it was just enough to just slap a sound bar on a wall, right? Those are the old days. And here's an HDMI cable, right? We can't operate that way when suddenly you need to manage 10 times more or 100 times more meeting rooms than you did in the past. You want to see who's using it. Is it getting used, right? As investments go up in such a dramatic way, you need the data to understand that and make sure that you're making the right kinds of investments. And then you have to make sure it's working really well so that you can secure it too, right?
That's a really good place to pause here for a second and ask a very important question when it comes to the actual users. And each of you are going to have a different take on this. So Eric, I'll start with you in talking with the end users, the IT managers, the AV managers. Where do you start when you start talking about innovating the technology, bringing in AI, bringing it, that stuff to the edge, while also remaining conscious of budgets? Because, budget constraints are also, becoming a concern, especially in higher education. Not so much in corporate, but there are still budget constraints across the board.
The thing is it all starts with being in the trusted environment, right? More trust, the faster we can go, the cheaper we can make things. That's the reason why, sorry to get on the weeds with the MDEP here, right? It's an IoT play here, really, right? And the IoT has to be trustworthy in order to get the edge properly, in order to do things out there for it. So when we're talking with the clients and we're talking with how well you want to go, as these things fit into the ecosystem, we got to give it a break. Yeah, I know budgets are down low, but you know what? A video conferencing room used to cost $150,000, right?
Certainly, yeah.
Now the problem is, though, everyone went, oh, well, I could possibly go to Best Buy and put a webcam. That's what some people did when they outfitted a room, right? So, unfortunately, we had to come in and clean up. We're kind of like in Rooms 2.0 right now, cleaning up all that, right? So what we're finding now is that it's got to be somewhere in between, but we got a lot of options that we can utilize and a lot more tools than we had, especially as we were getting out of the supply chain, processes. And, I'll give Crestron some credit here. It's, once again, back to your point, Tim, is like, I don't have to put a customized $50,000 system in this room anymore in order to get the same performance now that I can get out of a $5,000 device or something like that in a room, or even lower, right? So there's the degree of how much data you want to push to the edge in the price of what you're doing for the room. And now it's not a position about price. It's about value. What do you value? How much do you want to go into this area? If I get cleaner data, then I can do more with that data basically in the room. If I can identify a person's voice and transcribe it for them, and that's important to them, well, I put a little bit better audio system in the room. We can bend a lot of the laws of physics, but we just can't break them. There are limitations to how far that bar is going to reach a room, no matter what technology you put into it, right? A lot of people will try to say they can bend the laws of physics, but they can't. You can't break them. But with our MIMS and the proper amount of MIMS, like in Crestron's bar, they have about 20 MIMS, Brad, I don't know the exact number, but the bar costs a little more because we have more of that and we can collect better audio in the room and maybe not need secondary and trinary devices in the room, right? But the problem is, once again, there's got to be an understanding of it, right? Not everything's going to be fixed with the bar, but we also should not overcomplicate it in the room, which I think our industry and the integrators have made a problem with that in the past. So, and I think that some of the manufacturers, though, are also taking advantage of that fact that and saying that we're going to overcomplicate it when we do need something more than just one device in the room.
Yeah, I think that's part of what we view as important in terms of turning to a full stack provider. In that you can go to a partner that you can trust, and you can deploy a bar in the rooms where a bar is appropriate. And you can go a little bit more in the rooms where it is appropriate, right? And you can go all out in the rooms that it is totally appropriate, right? You could go to a Sightline room in the boardroom or in those meeting rooms where you have a lot of discussion, right? A lot of back and forth brainstorming, right? And then every room in between, right? Whether it's BYOD, a bar, these full multi-camera systems with like a Sightline room, or you go into a training facility, right? And a multi-purpose room. So, every organization has a variety of rooms like that. And, there isn't a single product on the market that can serve every need that a customer has. And so how can you find a partner, a technology partner that helps you address all of those spaces without needing to assemble all these bespoke rooms, along the way. And that by starting there, then you can create a foundation where you have really good visibility into what's happening across the whole estate and set you up into a place where you can get value from the data that's being generated.
Yeah, I think the clients are asking no more for just I don't know, best bar, right? Brad, you were hinting this. I heard this term quite a bit at IC. I'm no longer working here in this room. I mean, golly, let's be honest, right? I can go find someone to go slap a bar on the wall for me. That's easy, right? It's now about workspace architecting or workplace architecting. Does that make sense? And having it all work together, and you're considering the full stack, even down from the AI and all the parts and pieces and going in there. You kind of need the integrator to help out. We love having partners like Crestron because they can give us many puzzles in it, and we take out a lot of risk when it can be replicated on having that many pieces of the puzzle that are designed to actually work together like that to get more into this workplace architecting instead of just trying to fit maybe a tool that isn't appropriate into a space just because, the marketing department told you to put it there.
There's nothing wrong with the marketing department. All right. Eric, from an integrator standpoint, what sort of challenges have you run into when you're trying to deploy a full stack solution with the AV team or the IT team?
I think the biggest one right now is that, we went through last year AI, and big plans of how we're going to change everything. So we geared up, we put all this stuff into these rooms to do all this, and right, I mean, it's just, okay, we can do it now. What do you want to do with it? Well, I don't know, but I can. And so really, I think, and I don't like design that way. I like to let's have the end goal in mind. And I think you need to design towards those AIs. I think I've been in better conversations in the last 6 months. Like, a simple example, big enterprise company. Hey, you know what? I really want name badging. What do I need for name badging now in the rooms, right? And then actually, I think the AI and the platforms, no offense, takes precedent now because that's setting the goal in the room, and then you build the hardware around it now. And unfortunately, and no offense to any manufacturer on the call, some of this stuff naturally that has come out to this point is only going to last for 3 years. And it's the nature of the software it's being ran on. It can't run past 3 to 5 years. It's not going to be supported. It just can't keep up with what they're wanting to do with it. So also, while you're building all this, back to your point on that too, Tim, is that now becomes a very big concern within the room. Do I build it modular or do I do an all-in-one? If I do an all-in-one, I'm going to have to upgrade that thing and toss the whole thing because my compute isn't separate than my camera. And my compute is going to age a lot faster than my camera or my microphone technology.
Brad, that actually brings up a good question here is from a manufacturing standpoint, how do you remain scalable? Because there is technology coming down the pipeline, right? And you have to make sure that the technology that you guys deliver really can, be flexible, be adaptable to the technology that won't be here for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think that one of the ways that we've approached it is there's a couple of ways that we've taken it. So we have technology platforms that we build around that you can continue to build and add features to without doing a full on reset. Some of those examples include DMNVX, right? Our AV over IP platform. It's better today than it was 5 years ago. Even if you installed a device 5 years ago, you still get the benefits and the features that were deployed today, right? So that's one of those things where we look at it as software enhancing the hardware because we built it to be able to do that. Air Media is the same, our wireless presentation and conferencing platform. Flex is the same as well. We have a separate compute engine. The software in that continues to get better, and then it's connected to peripherals of choice. And so then you can have the situation where you have a compute that's in the room and you may upgrade the camera every 3 years, but you can keep the compute for 5 years, right? And so it does give customers some of that flexibility to embrace change on certain peripherals and invest in infrastructure on others, right? And then at the same time, we've also built devices that fit within the category that Eric's talking about. An all-in-one video bar has a different shelf life because that goes into a room where, a customer might embrace and do the trade-offs of, hey, every 4 or 5 years, I may have to replace this, which is on a shorter time cycle than maybe my boardroom, which has a 5-6 year type of a refresh cycle. And so for us, we invest in these technology platforms And then we introduce a variety of products so that the customers can choose the right ones for them, right? At the end of the day, though, we just want to be the partner of choice for that customer. We do that by making these investments.
All right. Eric, actually, talk for a second about collaborating with other technology partners when you're trying to deliver an AV solution to in this case your client, and then we'll get Brad's perspective on the manufacturing side.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm a big fan of modular components within the room space, right? So and Crestron is a great partner for that, right? Like Brad just discussed here. His cameras are fantastic, and the One Beyond solution is a very good solution. But I've actually been in rooms where we're going to do broadcast. We're actually going to send out a full stream television studio, and we also need teams involved, right? So, a modular system like that, or if the client is used to the user experience of maybe Crestron in all the rooms and a second page experience from Teams, for example, right? Or even in Zoom, where we can launch now the Zoom app within that environment. The beauty about it is it still there will eventually be a point, like I said, we're workplace architecting now, right? And I have to consider in this room where there's going to be supported meetings and unsupported meetings. So as I'm designing this room, I have to keep that Microsoft or Zoom experience the same throughout the facility, with the ability to maybe add on additional features moving forward, right? So when you're in an ecosystem that is built to work with other devices, but also has the ability to implement or to take on a bolt-on that might be needed for the one-off or the more advanced technical space, that's incredibly helpful within the environment with the client, and it makes the client feel more that they're making the choice instead of being handcuffed to the choice, if that makes sense.
Brad, same kind of question is how do you work with other partners?
Well, we, starting as a control platform, you learn very quickly. You have to support a wide variety of products, right? And we have a big ecosystem, right? We've embraced that reality. We know that there is no way to deliver homogenous, one brand only kind of a workplace. And so, we have open APIs and we work with really great vendors in some of our solutions, right? The One Beyond Automate VX solution that Eric was talking about, right? We partner well with Sennheiser and other really great microphone manufacturers. And we know that that's important. And we do that in a lot of rooms, right? Displays and other types of technologies have to be integrated into our platform. And so we've invested a lot of time and energy to having a platform that we can embrace and integrate with a broad set of technologies.
All right, guys, as we wrap up here, we started this conversation. It kind of went this direction when it came to the information, the data that these rooms are giving us. Eric, I think you the one that said that AV has more data on these rooms in these buildings than most any other system. How do we approach privacy then and security concerns when it comes to the AI features that are coming down the pipeline, as well as the AV products that we're installing?
That's the thing, is that I thought there would be a big resistance to it, but there is starting to be an acceptance of using stuff like Copilot, for example, in my own tenant. There seems to be more openness to it, is knowing that, hey, I got AI, but I'm controlling my AI because I trust the platforms now here for a moment, or I trust this, right? People tend to trust Copilot and AI from actually Zoom on their financial call. They've got pretty good AI adoption that was going on with Zoom, for example, right? Copilot, for the rooms, I think it's getting there. They're finding more uses for it. I think when people know that it's being held within their own tenant, that allows for a little more adoption. And they know that they're not necessarily sharing it with the rest of the world, and it's being housed within the tenant, which, like you were talking earlier, there, and what Brad was talking, and Brad probably is working even more with the clients closer than I am on them building their own AI and what they're choosing, what libraries they're allowing to choose in to work with that, and their comfort zone within their own tenant. Does that make sense? So, I mean, some stuff that I saw at ISE from different vendors out there blew me away that it didn't have to be relearned. There's already modules out there that can identify you as a person from your work badge. Automatically, it doesn't have to be learned, and it can be from any camera. Identify objects in the room. Put context to, wow, it understood on the language learning model that I might be chilly in this room. Should I interrupt and ask if I should turn the temperature up, for example, right? Subtleties like that, I think, are there. I think that's the next level for everyone to start exploring now a little bit. But we got to be comfortable with the trust, like we were talking about things like MDEP and providing maybe the watch what ecosystems we're putting in order for them to feel comfortable to experiment with these things that I thought you would actually have to maybe train or something. And it's pretty impressive that you don't.
I think that uncovers a warning for our industry and a huge opportunity. And on the warning side is for our industry, we got to move. We need to embrace this, right? And the second is the opportunity is such that a lot of workers today, they are experimenting and playing with AI on their own, right? And it is the situation of a BYO AI, right? There, I'm like, hey, I don't have a work sanction thing, but I can go over here to this random piece of software. It's helping me do my job. And so I'm going to use it every day. That sets the expectations of the average workers for what they should get out of the technology in their workspace. And so it's an opportunity for us to deliver and meet those expectations, right? And so we find ourselves where, consumers want this stuff, right, within the workplace. And so that part's great. But, we've been through this before, right? It used to be that BlackBerry was the enterprise sanctioned device within an enterprise, right? But then people started jumping up and down and saying, I want a MacBook, I want an iPhone, right? And IT departments had to acquiesce and bring them in a secure way because that's what consumers wanted. Those devices set an expectation for how that technology should work. The same thing is going to be happening with AI. They're going to experience the benefits and value of these AI tools. We have the opportunity, because we are the eyes and ears in a room, to bring that into the room. And so let's go find ways to deliver that for an enterprise. And we have to get there really quickly.
It's actually going to be the insurance companies dictating how much risk you can take. It's amazing how much the insurance company now is controlling the risk tolerance of a corporation, because your insurance is going to be tied to what's being allowed. Right. So what's interesting is that in some of these environments, when they're satisfied that you've meet this trust factor here, like maybe using the same OEM, right? Or like maybe using MDEP, or maybe using some of these things, or putting it in your own tenant, they're the ones that are allowing for the AI. And actually the risk factor and your experts are kind of becoming the insurance agency. So one place to follow, if you want a hint, is follow what the cybersecurity insurance is going to allow.
It's interesting take. Right. I can see that for sure.
All right. That'll be a good place to stop, guys. Thank you both so much. Eric Snider from CTI. How do people find you, sir?
Find me at eric.snider@cta.com, or you can hit me on LinkedIn, just Eric Snider. I'm more than happy to chat with you.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Eric is one of the nicest guys and very, very gracious with his time. So we thank him. Brad Hintze, how do people connect with you or Crestron?
Find me on LinkedIn just under Brad Hintze, and then Crestron.com for all things Crestron.
All right, very good. For me, for Tim Albright, don't find me anywhere, but go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find programs like this and a host of others, all that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.